Hi everyone, welcome to LF AI and Data TAC Talks. In this TAC Talk, we explore various projects that are hosted by Linux Foundation's AI and Data Foundation, and we invite our project maintainers, the startup founders, and we dive into projects, what really drives them to open source, why Linux Foundation, and in general, like how the community is doing. So you learn a lot about open source projects, the motivation behind different companies in AI and data space who are contributing their codes to open source and building community around it. So our hope is that you can also find some learning resources. You can maybe this is your first time contribution and you can pick your favorite projects. So through all these mediums, definitely we try to bring in best in the open source in AI and data. And if you see that there is any gap, definitely please let us know. So these tag talks happen live on LinkedIn and YouTube channels of LFAI and Data Foundation, and you have an amazing chance to get your questions answered live. Today on the talk, we have Mandy Chessell from Egeria. So it's super honored to welcome her to our LFAI and Data Tag Talk. In the meantime, please definitely let us know in the chat where you are joining from. If you have any questions along the way, definitely put them in the chat, either on LinkedIn or YouTube. We will monitor both of those. So with that, please join me in welcoming Mandy Chessell. Hey, Mandy, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thanks.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's such an honor to have you finally on our Tag Talks, Mandy. We would love to learn about the project, your background itself, what motivates you to open source, and kind of like just give like a little bit of overview and motivation behind it. Yes.
Yeah, I can. So, I mean, this project actually started 6 years ago. It's been going a while, and it started when there was a big hype on big data. And my job, I was working at IBM, and I was visiting a lot of customers, very large companies all over the world, lots of different industries, and talking to them about their big data projects. And many of them hit exactly the same problem, which was trying to get a myriad of tools to work together and exchange metadata so that they could understand their data in different contexts. Because every project has so many different types of professionals working in it, and they each know a different piece of the puzzle. So how do you bring that together? And as IBM, we tried to link all our tools together so that there was an integrated experience with IBM tools. But that wasn't enough because these companies wanted to use tools from lots of different places. So I took this to my boss, and he came back and said, "Yeah, go solve it." And he says it's got to be open source because we have to get companies to collaborate on this. We don't want anything to be a threat. We want people to feel that being a part of the project, everybody's gaining. So that was really why we started it open source. And it started as part of Apache Atlas. Because to be honest, the Apache Atlas team were fantastic at getting us up to speed. None of us had ever done an open source before.
Yeah.
And so we started, we got a sort of a small a gem created. But they realized that Egeria was a big project, and they, with their expertise in open source, they said, no, it really needs to be its own project. And then luckily, the Linux Foundation came along and offered to host it for us. We started in a foundation called the ODPI, and then that merged with LFAI, and so that became LFAI and Data. So that's our history, and it's been great. It has been just wonderful to have the cross company collaboration that we get with open source.
That's amazing, Mandy. It's a very historical background, and I definitely agree on like a lot of myriads of tools because, you know, there's always something, a UI that we like from one project, or maybe a spec of another project. So our infrastructure becomes very clunky, and sometimes we want all these our favorite tools to work together, and integration comes in a long way. Wow, that's so cool. So you mentioned about ODPI. That was a foundation created.
It was originally put together to help Hadoop vendors work together to come up with a standard Hadoop. When the number of Hadoop vendors sort of dwindled to one or two, it didn't really have a job anymore, and so they were looking for projects, and we came along at the right time. So that's why we started there.
Wow.
And you actually see it in all our code. You'll see our package names. We've got ODPI in it and things like that. But we've been in the LFAI and data for quite a few years now.
Yeah, definitely. What does ODPI stand for, Mandy?
It doesn't stand for anything. Originally, it was going to be the Open Data Platform Initiative, but there was trouble getting the trademark, so it's ODPI.
Got it. Wow. Thank you for sharing all that cool history behind it. Yeah. There are some parts I did not know. So thank you for enlightening me. Awesome. So let's dive into Egeria. Let's share who this who this project caters to. Of course, it's for the big data population and the IT, but I would love to hear from you what was a little bit of background on this project and the personas behind it.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna share some slides, and you might think that they're a bit strange, because what we're actually doing, and a lot of what governance is doing, is getting people from different professions, different parts of an organization to work together. And so we do a lot with personas. So let me share my screen.
Definitely.
And select, let's see, screen one, here we are, and bring it up, and hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yes.
And let me start PowerPoint, and here it is. So I'm going to go into full screen, and how's it looking?
Looking great.
Okay, so one of the first things we did was create a set of personas that represented a company. And obviously, these are all based on real people, but the names are, nobody's actually called these names. They're blended from different people. So all the scenarios that we have are real scenarios that organizations have. And you can see that they're not all IT people. So if we start looking at specific users, so Tessa Tube. So this company is a medium-sized pharmaceutical company that's engaged in personalized data. So they have a huge amount of data that's driving their business. So Tessa, her job really is she's working in a regulated industry, she's so she's dealing with regulators, and she's also leading the business. So the data work she's doing is absolutely critical for her business going forward. So she's critical at what she's doing. And also she's sharing data with third parties and hospitals. Basically, they're providing data from their patients, and they're also looking for a two-way win. So she has an important role around the data processing that they do, and it's quite multifaceted. And she has people to help her, obviously. So she has Tanya, who does all the legal work, all the making sure that the way that their clinical trials are run is passing all the regulations. You've got Peter, who is a data engineer, and Callie, who's the data scientist. And the interesting thing is, and this often happens a lot with data people, is that not everybody that Tessa needs to fulfill her objectives works for her. So Tanya and Callie do, but Peter doesn't. And that can leave Peter a little bit isolated. And I think a lot of data people can be sort of in a technical team working on particular data technologies, but missing a lot of the knowledge, the business knowledge around where the data is coming from and what the needs are. So when you start going through, sort of requirements around data, you can see that her team doesn't follow the organization structure, so not everybody works for her. And so when you try to sort of give people goals for data governance and data management, you end up sort of having either really wide and vague goals, like everybody's responsible for data quality, which of course means that most people don't know what to do and they won't do it. or you end up with very specific goals that nobody understands what the purpose is. And so, nobody's really engaged in creating this. So what we're trying to do is, as data sort of flows between different silos in an organization, we're trying to make sure that there's a balance between who does work and who doesn't, and who's getting the value. So we want everybody to get value and as they contribute. So and particularly when you look at individuals' motivation, what they're being asked to do, they want to make sure that that it adds value to what they're doing, so that that they look good to their colleagues and their boss, so they seem to be successful, and also to understand that what they're doing is contributing to a bigger whole. And of course, the most important thing is, again, at the end of the day, what we ask people to do from a governance point of view has to add value to them. So let's start thinking about what that would mean to different individuals. So if we talk to Callie, who's a data scientist, she's getting measurements from the hospital, and she needs this data as soon as it arrives, because there's always a time pressure on her work. But she's worried that the data is not valid. Have the hospitals taken the measurements properly? And then she needs to know, well, where did that come from? If if she finds a problem in the data, because this is coming in from a third party, she doesn't know the people at all. And then there's also legal questions. Can I use this data on other projects? Because it's quite nice to compare from one clinical trial to another, for example. So she has questions that are really around the business, the people that she doesn't know. Peter, remember, he works in a different team. He knows he needs to trigger the pipeline as soon as possible, so that firstly, because for security reasons, but also, if it's wrong, then the sooner it's picked up, the better. And again, he has concerns about who to contact, and knowing what valid data looks like. And then you've got Tanya. Now, Tanya is the one that's doing all the legal agreements, so she really does understand the requirements around the data, what it needs to be, and also the different licenses and data sharing agreements that are going. But she actually can't see what's going on. So what we're trying to do with Egeria is, even though these people work in different parts of the organization, have different jobs, and use their own tools, we're actually trying to bring them together through knowledge sharing, through linking the tools. And so this is Egeria. Egeria sits here. It doesn't replace the tools. It doesn't even replace their repositories. It actually synchronizes data between the two. And you might say, well, that's a lot of chat for just what for why do we need Egeria?
Yeah, that's great, Mandy. Thank you for touching on the personas and where the Egeria fits in. So there are some like metadata tools out there, and like you said, sometimes data engineering job is so like isolated that they lack the business context, and when they are needed, it's like always urgent, like do this for me. And they are kind of lost, okay, where this requirement is coming from. So definitely that was a great point you made. Yeah, like why Egeria? Why would I use it? If you can touch on that too.
Yeah. Well, so because we're crossing organizational boundaries, we have to fit in with different styles of organizations. So the aim with Egeria is to have technology that will make one team more effective just on their own, if only they're the only ones who do it. And maybe different teams deploy Egeria independently of one another. And then Egeria can be connected together afterwards. So you can use its design, it's very modular, it's designed to have it runs on a Raspberry Pi, it scales on a large cloud environment. So it's designed for any size of organization, plus you can turn stuff on and off. So it's there to augment the tools that people have, but it also has a very strong governance piece around managing the legalities of the data you're working with, and making sure that knowledge about that is available to all the people in the team. So that's really why you would want to use it. But it is an incredibly complicated problem that we're trying to solve. And because it's going to be run by data people, we try to make it completely automated. It's, you know, it does a lot of its own it's self-managing. We try to hide as much of the complexity of what it's doing as possible.
Got it, got it. Would you mind diving into a little bit of like
A
how?
little bit
Yeah.
about the technology. Sure. Okay. So let's go back to those charts again, and that should be a bit faster this time. I'm still having to give it permission. And is that sharing?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, it says it is.
Okay, now it is. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. It's a bit slow. So the question was about the technology, and you could think, well, it's just sending stuff across the network. But the trouble is, things on both sides are changing all the time, and as you know, with technology, if it can be different, it will be different. So we at the top, we have a language, a set of open metadata types. There's about 800 different types that cover all the different types of metadata that you want to exchange between the system. And so we're constantly monitoring and synchronizing. We keep an awful lot of data about where stuff came from, and we manage versions. You can query the data, you know, what was it last week, that type of thing. So that's this top piece. Then, of course, we need sort of middleware that will connect to lots of different types of technology using different protocols and things. And then finally, our code needs infrastructure to run on. So if I spread that out, you can see at the top, these are lots of different types of governance capability that you would expect, deduping, classification, etc., etc. Then in the middle, this is much more of the middleware managing the peer-to-peer synchronization and access to metadata. And then at the bottom is the standard stuff you'd get for any piece of infrastructure that you're running, security and support for containers and things. So there's really three levels. The top is, you know, pure governance stuff. The middle is the specialist capability needed to synchronize data between heterogeneous systems, and the bottom is the infrastructure. So yeah, I mean, I can go into a bit more detail. This patchwork quilt represents our type system, and so right at the beginning we took all the different metadata standards that there were, and most of them are very good, but they are very narrow in what they cover. So we stitched them together. So we use this sort of patchwork quilt look, and then all of these standards are then linked together. So we have a sort of complete linked view of how everything sits together, and it's covering governance and people and technologies and sort of business ontologies, as well as lineage and discovery. So it has a very wide scope in terms of what data we're sharing. And because we need to reconcile differences between systems and things, we have our own governance action engines, and they can validate. So you can see there's a failed thing in there, and what failed was that a pipeline was ran to retrieve data from a hospital that hadn't certified that they had passed all their training and things. So the pipeline was shut down, basically. So that's the sort of governance type processes that we can do. And then I think, I'm sorry, yes, did you want to ask a
quick question? So Egeria, does it like add a kind of file format per se on your data, or how does that look like?
No, it has one-to-many repositories, and so it actually maintains a virtual graph. So although we might store our repository might be a database, the API that we have for the repository is a graph, and so we've got nodes of information and relationships between them. And it's actually the relationships that are often the most valuable thing, to understand that this data comes from this team, it has this license, it has this at this quality level, etc. So we're gathering information from different tools, assembling it into an sort of into a canonical format and linked format. We may augment it, and then we're pushing it out to other systems.
And the UI that you showed, the table view, is that a UI a part of Egeria, or like what?
Yes. So because we have many different personas we're dealing with, we have many faces. So that particular UI is a Python widget that runs somebody who's maybe not an infrastructure person, but maybe a data engineer like Peter, who would actually just want to see what's running, or whether something that they set off is working okay. Individuals are also getting notifications from Egeria, so if they ran something and it failed, they'll get a notification. So there's that. As I say, we're pushing and pulling to different tools, so people often use the tools that they were using before. We have a very rich Python environment for people using Python notebooks and things, because of the love of Python in the data world.
Yes.
There's a full set of REST APIs for building UIs on top of Egeria for different types of users. So yeah, we are a tool of many faces.
Got it. So if I have like Jupyter Notebook per se, I would be able to call in the API of Egeria and grab that token and the information and relevant metadata related to it.
Yeah, and there'll be displays and things. So this. So if I go back, oops. It's there we go. Hopefully, can you see the screen again?
Yes.
So this is a screen capture from a Jupyter notebook that so I issued a command to extract what we call a lineage graph for a particular asset. So this was the asset CocoSAS, which is a sustainability database, and it's retrieving data from all over the business to find out, the resources. This is the hazardous materials for understanding use of things like CFCs. We've got information about people's expenses and their travel, and so this is basically showing the data flow. And this we use a standard called Mermaid, which will render render these diagrams in Jupyter, in web-based APIs and things like that. So yeah, that's what you can pull from Egeria and see how things fit together. And this is sort of information that's come from multiple places to get that picture.
Wow, cool. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
And that layout was done entirely in an automated way. It's really that's Mermaid. We didn't build it. We just used the Mermaid. It's very, very good.
Okay, this looks like if I'm looking at some Spark metrics behind this scene, like how Spark the director link graph, where they have like nodes assigned and
yeah. But this is a picture of a business, right? So those were all systems, not code in a single process. That's actually, each one is a system in its own right, each of those boxes.
Got it.
It was warehouses, databases, applications that are used throughout the system, because that's the thing. I mean, the data comes from somewhere, and it normally comes from an operational system that's running the business, and then the AI and analytics we want to feed back to those people.
Yes.
So that they can run the business better, right? You don't do your analytics separately. The more real time we make analytics, the more it's tied back to the operational part of the business. So
this graph that you showcased, Mandy, is it like you said it's automatically generated from where the data is being fed?
Query on Egeria, What comes back is a whole load of JSON, which is what we've pulled from the graph, plus a string that describes that graph structure called a mermaid string. And then we push that into the mermaid JavaScript function, and it just displays it.
That's amazing. And any parts of these node that were generated, can we like, just for like, let's say some organization maybe they want to imply governance but anonymize like few things, can we do that customized?
Yes. So what that picture is just showing what's in the database. But the way the type system works is that you might gather information about a particular data set.
Yeah.
And someone says, well, wait a minute, we need to understand what's inside it so we can run a survey and see what the data's there. And someone says, well, look, there's a lot of personal data in there. We need to classify it. And actually, it's come from this hospital, so we need to attach a license to it, so that when Callie's doing her data science and she searches for it and finds this data set, she's got all the information she needs to make the right decision. Is it good enough quality? Am I allowed to use it? Do I have to get permission to access it? All that sort of thing. That's all done for her.
That's amazing. Okay. Yeah, it's very powerful, especially um in the very complex organization where you have multiple people, and even like
But it's also allowing Callie to get on with her data science, which is what she loves, rather than phoning around trying to find out what this data means, etc., because it's there for her. So and there's always somebody who knows, and so if we can gather it as part of their work and make it available to Callie when she does her work, then people aren't bothered with admin. You know, things work much more smoothly throughout the organization.
Yes. Wow, that's amazing.
The dream.
Yes. So Mandy, moving on, since this is a part of LFAI and data project, what sort of work you are doing in this space? I would love our community know about, any kind of project work you are doing with other organizations, because we all are working together as a part of LFAI and data, working on different integrations or with multiple projects. So are there any cool things you would like to share?
Yeah, lots of them actually. So I used to work for IBM, and I now have I'm part of a small consultancy, and so we're working with multiple organisations in terms of helping them get up to speed with Egeria and also helping them with their governance questions. So because it's all about how do you make people like governance. So we're doing that, but also, I mean, the beauty of being in LFAI and data is the other projects. And to have opportunities to work with those other communities to build integration. And given that our job is integration, one of the easy targets for us is to integrate with other LFAI and data projects. So we've done a lot of work with Open Lineage. So Open Lineage is a sister project. It has very similar goals, so it provides standard event payloads for processing and data processing engines, like orchestration engines and things, to produce lineage information about what is running. So you can think of it as tracing a data pipeline, and that comes out, and we've got this coming out of Airflow and Spark and various other. I think Flink is in progress at the moment, and so we because we have our own process engine, we produce Open Lineage as well, but we also capture it. And then we can start extracting information about the processes that we're running and the data sets that were being used. And that's part of the data capture to produce that lineage graph that I showed you. So we've done a lot of work with Open Lineage. As a result of that, we also integrate with Marquez, because Marquez it's able to store Open Lineage directly, but also it does really nice displays. And then finally, we're working with Unity Catalog, which is a recent addition to LFAI and data, which provides governance in terms of secure access to data. And so that's a great complement for what we do. So we can synchronize metadata backwards and forwards between Egeria and Unity Catalog. So we can provision data resources into Unity Catalog. We can extract the catalog information, information about the data that Unity knows about, and maybe multiple Unities. And then you can start searching and say, well, which Unity catalog have I got this data in? And then we can augment it and sort of, as I say, add licenses and classifications and things, so that people working with Unity can have a much richer metadata experience. So these projects have all been great to work with, and hopefully we'll do more and find other projects to work with as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, you kind of touched on 3-4 different projects, plus like other integrations you are building with Flink and all that stuff. Quite exciting. So Mandy, how about we have like 10 more minutes left, and I definitely want to cover a few more things.
Okay.
How about we give our viewers a feel of UI, how the Egeria workspace or UI looks like? Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So let's go back to sharing the presentation. There we are. It's several clicks. Okay, so let me step through these. This is the different projects that we've been working on. Okay, so here we are. This is what we call our TUI. So basically, when you start this up, this is designed to help people use our command line. And so you can basically, it's called Hey Egeria. So you say, Hey Egeria, and then you can say catch show asset graph, and that's one of the graphs that we can display. So basically, you can use this to explore all the different commands that you can run. So you don't have to be a programmer to use Egeria. So that's the TUI. This is one of our operational widgets. This is just showing which servers are running on a particular platform and what they do. So somebody like Peter wants to see if Egeria is up and running, he can use these. He can see what governance engines and services are available, and also which integration services are running. So the governance engines are for running things like surveys and things. The integration daemons, these are active, continuously running processes that are checking for updates in all the different systems they're connected to. And you can see here the open lineage publishers and various other things that are working, pushing and pulling open lineage. So that's another one. And here you can see when we add in Unity. So basically we have these content packs for different types of technology. And when you load a content pack, the end governance engine for that technology and the synchronizers are automatically loaded and start running. So, you don't have to have everything running with Egeria, but when you select the technology, you just can activate it in one command and it's all up and running, configured and ready to go. And then this is just different types of processes that we have to run things. So you might be new to Unity, and so you can run a survey and see what survey is coming out. You can catalog it, and you can push new data definitions to Unity as well. So that's it. And this is just really showing different types of screens. And then I think I showed you earlier on the lineage view. So we're trying to help people see a very complex repository, but just see different views of it. For different users as they're working through at different times. And our personas, again, this is how we make sure that we don't muddle concepts and things. It's like, this is for Peter, this is for Callie, this is for, so that's what we do.
Yeah, and also that's a very good piece you mentioned about governance, Mandy. One of the areas I'm also working on is data clean rooms, because our organizations want, let's say, generative AI use case, how we make sure that the privacy and security are there for the use cases we are building on generative AI applications, for example. So how does Egeria fit into data clean rooms? Is there any kind of like
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's able to pull that knowledge about the classification, about the data sharing agreements, and maintain that metadata with the catalog information about the data itself. It means, and it can be queried by pipeline. So you can do very simple things like no data goes in unless it's got this certification attached.
Yes.
We have samples to show how you would do that in an organization. So, and it's particularly important where the data sharing agreements are being done by one team and the pipeline building's being done by another, so that, you know, you just stop foolish mistakes that then can cause huge amount of rework because contaminated data's got into a particular AI experiment and things, and you know, you're tearing it down and starting again. So yeah, that's really where we sit. It's the knowledge base that allows you to make good decisions when you're acquiring data, when you're transforming, and then when you're using it in AI.
Got it. Got it. That's so cool. Yeah, I would definitely follow up on that part too, how we can that integration, or yeah, bring more into that area. But Mandy, with just a little time left, I definitely want to leave some resources for our users or viewers here. Like if they want to, let's say, if they are new to Egeria, yeah, if they are new to Egeria, where can they find resources? If you can
Okay.
share a bit about
Yeah.
how to find it.
And what I'm going to do is just share my browser and show you our websites and our things. So let's. I'm going to go back to sharing the screen again because it's easier to find stuff. So this is our main website. So you can see this https Egeria project, egeria-project.org. And this is where most of our information is. And so, you know, basically this will take you through what we're trying to do and how it works. There's sort of a detailed set of concepts. You can find out about the services we have, different types of how the type system works. There's our releases and our newsletters as well. So everything is here really, including the link to GitHub. And here's our GitHub. So this is ODP. So this is where ODPI comes from. So Egeria, ODPI/Egeria. So if you like what you see, please star us. We're always looking for more stars. If you're interested in contributing, we have very simple and very like all the other projects. It's we use pull requests. You can raise an issue if you want to discuss things. We have we're on Slack. We're on the LFAI and data Slack. So if you want to find out how to get to that, we have a community, and there's lots of information about how you contribute, how you connect with the community. And also we have badges. So if you become a contributor or you want to become a maintainer as well, then you get badges that look a bit like this. Oh, is it show me? Yes. So that's what the badges look like, because we appreciate that people don't necessarily work on a project forever, but they should get recognition when they do work on a project for a while.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Have I missed anything?
Oh yeah. Are there any? That's helpful, Mandy. Thank you for sharing the GitHub. I will also post it in our channels. Another thing I wanted to ask is, are there any channels where community talks together, like offline channels, online channels? Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot is done through Slack because we're all in different time zones, but we do have a weekly call. A weekly call is on Wednesdays. It is on GMT 1 p.m., which means that, you know, we're just about to change time zones, so it's going to shift a bit. But we try to keep it stuck on a non-daylight savings time zone, so that if different parts of the world shift time zones at different times to go into daylight savings, we always know exactly when the call is. So we do an hour a week where we share what's changing and things like that. We also
Got
do webinars occasionally, and what I'm trying to do at the moment is build a series of videos of different aspects and what we're doing, so that people can pull it off of YouTube anytime they've got some spare time. Mm-hmm.
Got it, got it. So Mandy, this the call information, is it available on your Egeria project page?
It's on the website, yes, it is, and it's. I don't think I'm sharing anymore, but yeah, it's on the website and under community, and yeah, and it's a Zoom call. It's using so if you're used to LFI and data Zoom calls, you'll see it's exactly the same mechanism that other communities use.
That's amazing. Okay. Yeah, I found some other resources as well on the website. So let me actually paste this in our chat so people have it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was wonderful, Mandy. You touched on a lot of things that users want and love to get plugged in. So thank you so much about that. I know this is a very short call, so we covered a lot of things, but definitely if viewers have any questions later on with the project, definitely we shared resources with you. So please stay tuned with the community of Egeria. If you like the project, start them on GitHub, and if you think there is an integration that you can build with the Egeria and other tools in the data and AI tech stack, definitely reach out. We are here to help you and help community work together. Mandy, super pleasure to have you on our TAC Talk for today. Yeah, any closing thoughts for the community?
No, I mean, if you're interested in what we do, if you'd like to contribute, we'd be delighted to hear from you. Or if you've got questions, we're all always helping, and we're always looking for people who've got Python skills, Java skills, JavaScript skills.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mandy. It's such a pleasure to have you. And yeah, I loved working with you on like previous calls too. So yeah, it's just amazing to have you here too. Anyways, for our audience, definitely please join us in future TAC Talks. These TAC Talks happen bi-weekly on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Our next TAC Talk will be on November, I think 5th or something. So we are going to bring another LF project, and we have like a packed agenda full of exciting stuff. If you are doing anything in the open source AI and data space, definitely reach out. If you would like to talk about your project or showcase your project, and we are happy to have that open dialogue with you. So thank you all for joining live. If you were not a part of live, these calls are recorded and are available on our YouTube and LinkedIn channels. So definitely you can watch them later and put your comments there. So thank you again. We will see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you all. Bye.